welcome everyone to this week's lesson. Last week we took a look into the resource manifest files and how to declare your static resources and register them into Orchard. One of them, the script file, namely won't be used in this lesson because this script file, as you can see in the training demo module, is used for the filter provider. So I'm just going to comment this out. The filters is a relatively easy topic. Due to the lack of time, we won't cover that. But please just take a look at the training demo module. There's a resource filter class which explains how the filters work in MVC, in ASP.NET MVC, and then how it is extended in Orchard. So that's just one class with of course a lot of comments as usual. So that will explain how to use them. So last week we created a resource manifest. We created two style sheets as well. So what's left of this is to create the actual style sheet file. So let's do this very quickly. What we need to add is two style sheets to our styles folder, and I just copy paste the names from the resource manifest. So one of them is going to be called Dojo Course module dependency CSS, and if it opens, you can add some content just here to see that it's really going to be added to the markup. So just type any text here, or you can override the body, background color, or anything like that to see that it's really working. So one of them is a dependency, and the other one is going to be the other CSS. So let's just add it very quickly. And like as in the other case, I just add some comment, and then when we use them and render the page, we're going to see that these style sheets are actually in the markup, and what is this dependency relationship between the two. So I just add this text here. So now we have two style sheets in our module. We have the resource manifest which registers them, and now we're going to see how to actually use them in our template. And if you remember from the contents admin controller, we've created some actions to create person list items, and one of them was to actually render this person list dashboard. Of course, this action has a corresponding template, and we're going to use these style sheets in this template. First of all, this is a very basic API element. Of course, as for the Razor syntax, we are going to open this Razor block here, and now we're going to see how to use resources. So very simply, if you just start typing style, you're going to see that we have this resource register object, and if you hit dot, you're going to see that it has a few methods. The two important ones that is not coming from the object is the include and require. So these two are a bit different. Requires a string to be passed into, and this will identify a static resource you have declared before in your resource manifest file. So you're going to be able to refer to a static resource by its name you have given here. So for example, define style. In the define style, you have a string dojo course.module.dependency or dojo course.module.other, and this is the name with which you can refer to a static resource in a style dot require method call. So this accepts a string. So I'm just going to copy paste dojo course.module.other, and the reason is that I'm not going to require this static resource is because it's a dependency of the other or the other static resource, so it's going to be required as well. We're going to see that when we look at the markup. So very simply, we have created a static resource, we have created an actual file for it, and then this is the way to use them in a template. So the next step is we have another one called script. So this is very similar to the style. It's almost the same. It has include and require and head and foot, which are notable here. So we're going to take a look at include here. So include basically is used for resources not coming from your module. For example, it can come from a CDN, for example, or any outer source. So basically, you can give it a URL. If you open a method, it's just a resource path. So basically, you can include a static resource from your module without declaring it in a resource manifest, but creating actual resources makes it easier to reuse your static resources, for example, scripts and type and style sheets. If you just want to use, for example, Bootstrap from the official CDN, you can just give it a URL and then you have it included. Now, what we have in the example here is the minified version of jQuery, which is of course can be found in the Orchard jQuery module, but for the sake of demonstration, the URL for this resource is code.jquery.com/ and I hope I'm not going to make a typo here. So for example, min.js. So this way we have included this static resource from the official CDN, and now we can chain other methods here. There are a few of them which can be applied, of course, but they have a self-explanatory name. The most important ones for the script, at least, is the add foot and add head. And well, they do what the method name says. So if you chain at foot, the script resource is going to be added to the foot of the markup. If you chain the add head method, then it's going to be added in the head section of the markup. So I just add it to the foot, and then we're going to see that this resource is going to be at the bottom of the markup when we load the page. Okay, so to go on with our template, we're going to look into another piece of Orchard API, which is the title for page. So we have an HTML helper here. We're going to put it in an h1 tag. So if you type HTML dot and then start typing title, you see that it has a method called title for page. So this is an HTML helper which will change the title tag of the current page. So if you start typing, it's going to it basically accepts a localized string. So if you just type, for example, person list dashboard dot text, the result is going to be that we have a localized string, so this can be localized, customizable, and the title of the page will be changed to the localized text. Well, if we don't have any localization, it's going to be just person list dashboard. So very simply, we changed the title of the page with this helper. Now the next thing is, so this is the person list dashboard shape. It's possible that when we are opening this page, if you look at the action, the ID parameter for the current person list item is 0 because we haven't created one yet, and we want to create a new one. So when the ID is 0, we're going to display a link to create a new one. So the way to do it is using another HTML helper. So if you type @HTML, and I think I may have lost an IntelliSense here. Yeah, it's possible. Anyway, so if I start typing html.link, this is the way to display a link in the markup, or I get IntelliSense. So first of all is we have to give a text. So this is going to be the actual text that is going to be displayed. and of course every time you display some string it should be a localized string. So for this way is just create new person list dot text, because we need to pass a string, and the localized string is of course has a string inside, so dot text will be acceptable for this method. And now it is going to be a link that need to be passed into. So we have of course a text and the link, and the link is going to be generated with another helper. This is called the URL.action. So URL is another important hub for helpers, and URL.action makes it possible to target a specific action in a controller. So if you are working in the same controller as this template is bound to through an action, then you don't need to give it the name of the controller, just the name of the action. And the name of the action is person list dashboard, as you can see in the content admin controller. And if you look at the signature of this action, person list dashboard, it accepts one parameter. It's not mandatory, but it accepts one parameter. This is called ID. Now, in the second parameter of the URL.action method, we're going to see that it's a route values object. So basically, what you can do here is define these parameters for this action, for this calling of the action. And the way to do it is just give it an object, and the ID should equal to 0. So this way, when I click this link, it's going to redirect or take me to a page where I can create a new item. So of course, this is the most simple way to target your actions and place links to your markup. It's possible to put hard-coded links into the markup, but that is not really a good way to do it, because if you change anything in your controllers, then you're going to you would have to adapt all these hard-coded links in all your markups. So basically, this is the good way to do it. It's going to adapt as well. Well, of course, if you change the name of the action, you would have to change that too. But this is a more simpler way and more customizable. So the next thing we're going to take a look at here is we have seen before in our controller that we have displayed an ad hoc shape. So we use the new method and then chain another method on it, which would translate to the name of the template. Now we're going to use the same new method here. Actually, it's a dynamic, so it's a shape factory, and the way to use it is we're going to use another helper here, which is called display. So through this one, we can actually display shapes, because a shape is a dynamic object. So if it is passed into as a model into our template, it's not displayed. But if you put it into a display method, then it's going to be displayed as well. So quite self-explanatory here. And now we're going to use the new method here, and then we're going to chain another method here, and let's call it ad hoc example. So this way, just like in the other case with the content admin controller, Orchard is going to look for a template with this name. And of course, as we have seen before, we can of course pass parameters into it. So let's just no thank you IntelliSense. So we'll just pass a parameter into this template, and then it's going to be displayed here. So let's just pass work context.current user.username. So this way, So this way, we are going to create a shape in an ad hoc manner, and then pass a parameter into it called name. And then now we can take a look at how to use it very quickly. And to do that, we're going to create a new we don't have ASP.NET View, so we're going to create an HTML page, and the name of this file should be ad hoc example. And let's just delete the content and change the format of this file, because it was HTML, it should be CSHTML. And yes, changing the extension. So very simply, we're going to use this parameter we just passed into this ad hoc shape, and the way to do it is that every time you have a view, you have a dynamic object called model, or actually the model can be statically typed. But in this case we have a dynamic model. So every time so any parameter you pass into this shape is going to be chained onto the model object. So the name parameter I described here is going to be accessible with the model.name. So we're just going to display this very simply. We're going to use a localizable string, because that's the way to create strings here, and we're going to use a string factory and greet the user. And I think, no, I did not lose IntelliSense, just forgot the @ character. And now we have model.name. So since this is dynamic, I don't have IntelliSense for the model object, but it's not going to cause any build errors. We're just going to display this hello something string, and something is going to be model.name, and this parameter comes from the work context current user username string, which will display the name of the current user, of course. So the next thing to do here is on this person list dashboard page, we're going to display a link to create a new person list, or we can actually create one. So if you take a look at the controller, in the person list dashboard shape result method, which we called in the person list dashboard action, we have generated the editor shape for a person list content item, and then passed it into our model, and the name parameter in which we have passed this editor shape is called editor shape. So it's going to be a very simple API, and now we need to somehow access it. So the way to display it is very simple. In fact, it's very similar to what we have just done before with our ad hoc shape. We are going to use another piece of API before that here. So in this section, we're going to display this actual editor shape to be able to create new person list. So this section is going to be edit person list, and of course a localized string. And now another method here. Okay, I just start typing and and hope that it works. So if I use the HTML.validation summary, yeah. So if you use this method in our controller, we're going to be able to display or create some error messages if we detect, or the model binder detects, that there is something wrong with the data we provided for our person list. And then when the page reloads, these messages will be displayed. So if you use the HTML.validation summary and of course pass it some string, this will be the actual error message. You can display a warning to the user that the data he or she provided is not acceptable in some way. So let's just edit some strings. A person. So let's say person list could not be edited, and that's enough for this one. And close the T string and then pass it text. So this way, if there's something wrong with the data that was provided, this error message will be displayed as well. And now we're going to display the actual shape we have talked about before. And the way to do it is that we're going to wrap it in another piece of element, which is called the anti-forgery form, or well, basically it's a form that is protected against cross-site request forgery. And the way to make use of it is use the HTML dot begin anti-form forgery post. So basically, this is a shortcut to create some form. Basically, our editor shapes the form because we are going to give some data and then save it to the database. We need to protect it against cross-site request forgery attacks. And what happens here is that there is going to be there is an anti-forgery token which will be passed into this method and checked automatically by the framework. And of course, if the anti-forgery token is not the token that is accepted, then it's going to be thrown back. So basically, with this little shortcut, we are protected against cross-site request forgery, and actually that's very important. So every time you display some form and save data, you are encouraged to use it. And very simply, just like we have done before with the ad hoc shape, we're going to display the editor shape we have generated in our controller. And the way to do it is just like that, just like with displaying the username in the other template, the ad hocly displayed shape. Model.editor shape is going to be the actual shape that is going to be displayed. Sorry, and it's a method. So this is going to be displayed as well. Now we have an action called personalized dashboard, which is good for displaying a link to create a new one, and then if there's a specific personalized content item we want to edit, we can display that too, and we're going to see the editor of a personalized content item. Now it's okay that we can display it, but we need a way to save it as well. And basically, in this relationship, we have this get method. It corresponds to a get request because we are getting the data we need. We are displaying the shape, and then we are going to need to save it as well. So we are going to create another method, another action, which is going to be the post method in this structure, and this is going to do the actual saving of these content items. So let's do that now. It's going to be another public method as well. It should be an action result too, and the name of this method should be personalized dashboard post. And just like in the other case, we need to have this ID provided and initialized to 0 because we can save a content item which is newly created. So we're not necessarily editing an existing one, but creating a new one. And in this case, the ID is not yet provided because the content item is newly created. And as you can see, we have this one method, and the post method is personalized dashboard post. But we need to connect them somehow so that the system knows that they actually belong together. One of them is get, one of them is post, and for that we have very simple attributes to use. So one of them is just HTTP post. So this is going to be a post method, and if you use action name, then we can give it a string which will identify this method. So we need to pass it this string. So this way the system knows that they actually belong together, and one of them is the get method, one of them is the post method. So we connected these methods together for this intended behavior. So now we need to implement our post method, and the first step is of course to check if the user is allowed to do anything with personalized content items, and luckily we have implemented this little feature before. So we can call the isAuthorize method, and if it returns false, then we're going to display a new HTTP unauthorized result. So very simply, with the method we have created and used before, we are checking that the user is permitted to do anything with content items, with these content items, to save them. So first of all, when we are saving these items, we need to check whether we are creating a new one, or we are creating or we're editing an existing one. So if this ID is not a valid ID of content items, we're going to display an HTTP not found result. So the way to check it is something we have something very similar we have done before. We're going to use the getItem method, because we have implemented this little sub feature here, which allows us to create a new content item if we need it, or retrieve an already existing content item if it's there in the system. So we're just going to pass this ID into it, and now we have a reference to the content item if it has a valid ID. Now, if we need to check if this item we have got is null or not, because as you can see, if we pass a parameter as 0 here, we're going to get a new person list content item. Otherwise, we're going to get to the content manager and get the actual content item that is already existing in the system. But if the ID is not 0 but not a valid content item ID, we're going to get a new reference, so we need to check against it. And the way to do it is check if this item is of course null, and then display, as I said before, display an HTTP not found result. So it's possible that the ID provided is not 0, but not a valid ID of a content item, because between when I loaded the page and when I wanted to actually save it, it's possible that it has been deleted by an administrator. So always we can trust the content manager that we're always going to get an actual content item. Now, to go on, we're going to check if this ID is 0. In case it is 0, it means that we are saving an item that is not existing in the system yet. So we're going to need to instantiate a new item of the type person list. So if ID is 0, and I'm just going to shorten it, we're going to call content manager.create, and then we have this item. So we got from the content manager this new person list item, and this way we are and if we call this method, it's only existing in a memory, so it's not yet persisted. This way we are saving with the create item, we are saving this content item. And okay, so the next step is we're going to update the editor. This is called there's a method called update editor. So basically it means that we are going to the model binder, and the parameters and the actual form values that are passed along with the method, we're going to check if they really correspond to the properties of the part, and if we can really save it. And the way to do it is make use of the MVC model binder. So we're going to call that method. And the way to do it is, along with deriving from controller, we need to implement an interface called iUpdateModel. And well, this is basically some plumbing we always need to do when when we want to use the MVC model binder. So this way we're going to be able to actually update the model, which will store all the values that are passed along with our form and correspond them to specific properties of the content part. And the add model error is a very simple method which will make it possible to add errors if there's something wrong with the values provided. So if I have, for example, a property that is required, but I click save without writing anything in a text box, there's going to be a model error generated, and an error is going to be displayed when the page reloads, and telling the user that there's a specific property that needs to be passed. Okay, so what we need here is just a very simple plumbing I mentioned before. So I usually copy paste it, but I just type in. So the method we need to call here is the try update model again, and basically just pass these parameters into it. So this is some wrapping around. Well, basically we are calling already existing methods here, but it gives us the opportunity to customize it a little. We could, for example, for every updating of the model, we could add some custom logic. For every displaying of a model error, we could add some custom logic, like displaying another notification or something like that. But we don't really need that. We're just going to call the default implementation and include properties and exclude properties. So this is very similar to what we have in our it's try updates. Very similar. Actually, it's the same what we have in our drivers. Okay, so we are calling the default implementation of try update model. I'm not sure if we mentioned them when writing a driver, but include properties and exclude properties is two, as you can see, string arrays, and they allow us to exclude some properties, as the name says, from checking with the model binder. So if I have some property of the content part that I don't want to check with the model binder, I can just type its name here, only one or an array of strings, and then it's not going to display any error, for example, if it's not provided or something like that. So this allows us to add some custom logic and customize what's checked with the model binder and what isn't. And very similarly, what we have in the other method, we're just going to call the custom the already existing implementation, default implementation. Sorry, it's model state from this method as well. But as you can see, we could add some custom logic here as well if we wanted to, but we don't need that here. So when we want to add the model error, we're just passing along the already provided properties. So to string. Okay, and yeah, what I wanted to mention here is that you need to implement this interface explicitly, because this way is going to, if you don't type, for example, I update model here, then it's going to cause a Stack Overflow exception, because the method is going to call itself all over again. So when you are implementing the iUpdate model interface, it needs to be explicit. Okay, so now we have everything what we need to use the model binder. So this is some usually necessary plumbing, and we are not going to add any custom logic here. Now back to our controller action, which is actually person is dashboard post. We're going to be able to save the content items. So if we have an already existing content items, so the ID is not 0, we are going to update its model in our method. If we have a new one, we're going to create it and save its properties and things like that. So what we have left here is that until this point, we're 100% sure that we have an actual content item. It can be an already existing one or a completely new one. What we have left here is to generate the editor shape for the content item again. Because if we have any model errors, for example, when we are reloading the page, the user expects that the data that was correctly provided is still there, and he or she only needs to edit or add the data that is missing or wrong. But the correct data needs to be there. So that's why we are going to update the editor, and when reloading the page, we are passing along all the correct parameters that don't need to be fixed. And the way to do it is that we are saving the reference for the editor shape, and we're calling another method on the content manager, which is called update editor, and it accepts 2 parameters. Well, it can be 3, but we only need to provide 2 of them. One of them is the actual content item that we are working with, and this is saved in the item reference, and the iUpdate model is in the this reference, because this is the controller that is doing the updating and working with the model binder. So now we have updated our editor, and these method calls are executed. Now the MVC model binder will decide that the data that was provided by the user is correct or not. And depending on that, we are able to check if the state of the model is correct or not. So if the necessary data is provided, or for example, for an integer property, we really have an integer provided by the user, not for example a string. All the cases when there's something wrong with the model, with the data that was provided, the model state that is valid call is going to return as a Boolean value. Now we're checking that. That will tell us if there's something wrong or not with the model. And the way to call it, as I said, model state that is valid. So this is just a Boolean value, and yeah, we are not returning a correct action result yet. So the text editor is not working correctly with the braces. So this way we can check if the data if the data that was provided is correct or not. Now what we need to do here is that when the data provided is not correct, we don't want to save the content item, because that would cause some trouble for us. And the way to do it is that we can actually intercept the process that is saving the content item, and the way to do it is to call the transaction manager service and call the cancel method on it. And I'm not sure if we already have this. No, we don't have this dependency here, so we are going to need another dependency, and it's called iTransaction Manager. Yes, it's in the orchard.data namespace. So we need another dependency here, iTransaction Manager, and just the usual process that could be a little faster with some code snippets. And now we're saving this referency, because as usual we are gaining advantage of the dependency injection framework. So we're saving the reference of the transaction manager service, and everything's all right. Okay, so now if we try transaction manager dot, we have a few methods here, and one of them is cancel. So this way we are stopping the process of saving this content item, because the data it stores is not correct. And now we're going to since there are some model errors that are going to be displayed, for example, we have typed a string where I should have typed an integer, for example, we are displaying the page again, but this way there are going to be some notifications displayed telling the user that something is wrong, and the user can correct these and then save it again. But for that, we need to display the editor over again, and we have a method for that we have used before. This is the person list dashboard shape result, and for that we need to just pass the content item into it, and it's going to do the rest, display the shape, and if there are some errors, which in this case is 100% sure because the model state is not valid, they are going to be displayed. Now what we have left here is to save. The content item is going to be saved because we didn't stop the process of saving it. Now we're just going to display the person list dashboard view and notify the user that everything went well and the item is saved. And the way to do it is we're going to call the notifier on the Orchard services service, and the notifier and we're going to add a new notification. The notify tab should be information, and of course it accepts a localized string message which is going to be the actual text that is displayed, and we have we have the localizer injected, and the text is going to be for example, person list successfully saved, and we need another one, closing bracket here. So we are displaying a notification when everything is alright, and the last step is to redirect the user to the person list dashboard because we have saved the content item, and he or she can create a new one or anything that is possible there. So we're just going to call the redirect to action method, and it accepts one string, or actually we can provide more parameters. For example, if we are redirecting to another controller, we can provide the controller name, but since we are in the same controller, these methods are in the same controller, we just need to pass the name of the action, and that is person list dashboard. Alright, so we have implemented what we need to save these, to create, edit, and save these content items. We're going to extend these functionalities around it in the second half of this lesson.
So we have written our complete editor, but that was a lot of coding without running anything. So first of all, let's try out what we developed, and let's see what errors Benedek has kindly included in our source code. And our page is compiling. So as a quick recap, this is the action that will display a shape, a custom shape that's created by us here. This shape has a corresponding template here. This template will, among others, display the editor shape of a content item. Now the content item that we will display the editor shape of is requested here. Well, it's requested in the getItem method, and it's a person list content item. Either a new one, if the given ID was 0, or an existing one. Now, if we post that page where the editor is displayed, this action will be called, and we will either create the content item or fetch it if it's already existing. We'll update the editor from the post data. So actually, this is the line where our content item object will be updated with everything that was posted from the form. If everything is alright, so if that means the model state is valid, then nothing happens. If the model state isn't valid, we will cancel the transaction. Thus, if anything was saved into the database, that will be cancelled. And we will return the modified editor to the user, so users can then make the necessary corrections in the editor. So let's see whether this works. As you can remember, this contents admin controller, as the name implies, is an admin controller. So we'll be able to, well, it's not right to say that we will be able to access it only from the dashboard, because it's just a normal controller that's under some route. But given that the admin attribute is here, only an administrator will be able to access it. So by accessing the dashboard, we have made sure that we are logged in, we have all the necessary permissions, and now we can try to guess the route of this action, because we have no link to it. We will create it later, but for now let's guess it. We know the MVC conventions. So routes are created like the following. First comes the module name, or in standard MVC projects, the area name. Then comes the controller name without the suffix controller. And on the last place comes the action name, the person list dashboard in this case. And if there would be any query string parameters needed, those would come now. Here we have this ID, so we could fill it, but we don't have any person list content items yet, so we can't fill in a proper ID. So let's try to open it. And it's not found, of course. So let's see what the issue here is. First of all, is our module is enabled, everything is fine. Let's try debugging as always, whether we hit this at all. I will attach the debugger to IS Express, as we have done before a lot of times. And everything's alright. Probably I've messed up the link. So let's try something simple first to display the link to this action. I think we haven't done such link routing yet, so it's probably worth knowing anyway. So what we'll do now, we'll create a link just somewhere that will point to this action, and now that link will be always correct. So I'm going to the Dojo Course theme, and as a very ugly hack, I will just display a link in the layout main div that will point to our action. So how you display links, or how you build URLs that then can be used in links in MVC and also in Orchard is the following. You need a route link, yeah, or rather action link. Route link will work as well, but action link is simpler in this case. Well, what would be the link text? Whatever. Person list admin, person list dashboard, And the action name should be the name of the action, surprisingly. So that's person list dashboard. We have a few overloads here. The second argument can be the controller's name. So contents admin. Well, I think it works either way. So whether you include the controller suffix or not, it doesn't really matter. And next, we should use this overload with a simple object by using an anonymous object and defining the area. That's our module's name, so Dojo Course.module. We have seen such route building from some of the controllers before, but it's worth noting that pretty much the same applies for links as well. So now we should be able to see link number here. Yeah, so here's our link. And let's click it. What? Anybody with any guesses why this isn't working? The first question is why it's pointing to this URL, so this content/item search person list dashboard when it shouldn't. I'm attached the debugger to IIS Express, and one interesting thing to note here. Yeah, I indeed attached it to IIS Express. That, as you can see, these breakpoints here are blank, so they are not full red. This implies that this class is not compiled, or it's not compiled at all, or it's not compiled in debug mode. Since we should be in debug mode altogether, yeah, so we are building for the debug build target. The build target shouldn't be an issue. So the question is why this isn't compiled here. And the question is good. I don't know why. Because okay, well, that's interesting. When I've started the site, I've hit Ctrl F5, so that also builds the solution. I'm not sure whether it was not showing us this compile error that's here, because now I hit F6, what's build all, so that's an explicit building including compilation, and now we got the error. So the error is that we shouldn't do this here. So this declaration of the type parameter constraints is wrong. We shouldn't do that. Yeah. Okay, and the next one is. By the way, you remember that way before I mentioned that when there's a compilation error, you can get 404s when opening your module's controllers. Now that was the case. Yeah, here the issue is that we have an explicit implementation of an interface, so of course we don't need the public modifiers here. And see whether there are any other mines on the mine field. Of course there is one. Yeah, we don't have any overrides, so that shouldn't be new. Okay, so now everything is successful, so now we should, oops, in the meantime I mistakenly opened Total Commander, and still there's some issue. Okay, let's try debugging now. And as you can see now it's compiled, and debugging can actually happen because we have it's indicated by having a bright red breakpoint. And the issue is that our controller is not hit at all, so even the constructor is not running. So what can be the issue? Well, let's cut this off and see what happens. Still nothing. Dojo Course module. I will take no more time with it because I don't see the error right now. So we will get back to this a bit later, probably next time. So well, anyway, this what's written here, well, it should work. it should work in the same way as I'm supposed to be able to open the action, but I don't know what the issue is. So let's go further and see what else we do have on the plate. Because, by the way, this is also a fully implemented, fully documented and the training demo module, so you can take a look at how to query content items. But there's one final, also quite important topic, and that's file management. So file management is something not it's a simple task inside Orchard, but you don't have to. You shouldn't use the same services as that are built into .NET. So to demonstrate how file management is done inside Orchard, we will create a new controller and just do everything from there. And hopefully we will be able to open that controller. And that controller will be called File Management Controller, simply because it's about file management. Surprisingly, it should derive from controller, as every controller. We will have what we'll use for file access is a service. So we have seen many services inside Orchard. Pretty much every interaction that we either have with Orchard itself or with the underlying operation system, whatever, goes through services, because we have layers of abstraction above the lower level features like file access. These abstractions, these layers of abstractions in form of these services make it easier to us, not just to use these features, but also to swap them out, and that's the main point. So for file access, we want to use the file class, for example, what's built into .NET, but a service called iStorageProvider, and its corresponding implementation that comes from somewhere, but anyway, it can be switched. It can be swapped with other implementations. So we will inject, as usual, in a private read-only field, we will inject an iStorageProvider instance that comes from orchard.filesystem.media. So that's storage provider. We need to do the same from the constructor, of course. Now, so let's take a look at this service, what it does. As you can see, it's really just file access. So there's exist and check. This public URL is a bit of a hint about why we use this iStorageProvider every time instead of low-level file access. Now, Orchard is a web application. You can deploy this web application on a wide variety of hosting providers. You can deploy it to simple servers where you can write to the file system, but you can also deploy these web applications to more special services, where, for example, you have a separate account for storage. Now, for example, that's the case, or rather, you can go this way on Azure. So you have a separate account for storage. You have a storage somewhere that's accessed in some way, and that some way is not low-level file access. Most possibly these are web service calls and HTTP calls. And this get public URL is useful in such scenarios. So we have a relative path inside our application to every file stored in the storage provider, but we may not be able to just access those files with the same path from the outside, from the browser. Because the URL we can access these files from the browser is through this public URL that can be fetched with get public URL. Many other methods are here. It's not that complicated. We will now see how to use some of them. So let's go back to our controller, and we will just try everything out from an index action. So nothing special here. First of all, how to create a file. And I will return an OK here, just as we have done before a few times. How to create a file. I hope you already know about streams inside .NET. Storage provider operates exclusively with streams, so we will use streams to write even simple strings to files. And this happens as the following. In the storage provider, there is a method called createFile. It expects a relative path to the file inside the storage account or by default inside the media folder of Orchard. So I don't know, let's call it Dojo Course / text file .txt. So you can give a full path including a folder path to this method, and depending on the storage provider, it may create the folder or it may fail. So probably it's safer to create the folder first, but here we will play easy. And this create file returns an iStorage file. So that's something we should know about. This iStorage file, and I really encourage you to always check out the interfaces if you don't know something. Here's the iStorage file. This iStorage file has some nice methods. What we'll need is OpenWrite. Or we could probably also use createFile, but OpenWrite is works for overwriting and for initial creating too. So back to the OpenWrite, as you can see, it uses a stream. So we will write to a stream now. By the way, streams are, as we can see here, iDisposable objects. So with every iDisposable in .NET, it's good practice to indeed dispose them, because they can handle some unmanaged resources that we can get rid of and gain back the allocated memory by disposing them. And the convenient way of doing this is with the using block, using close, because when this block is over, it will dispose the object. So file.openWrite, and this will give us a stream, so let's call it stream. We need to write to this stream somehow. Well, let's pretend we want to save just some string. That's why we call the file text file. So we will need a corresponding stream writer for that. It's indeed called stream writer. So we will add another using here. I hope you also know this form of nested usings. That's basically the same than adding the using here and having an inner block. It's a convenient way to write multiple usings. and that will be a new stream writer. We should include a namespace for that. The stream is our stream, of course. And now through this stream writer we can write to the stream that will then be saved to the file. So let's write something like through the write method. Of course, it has many overloads. One of them is accepting a string. So, for example, hello file. Okay, that's a lot of work we have done here. I've hit Ctrl+Shift+Save. So let's try this controller now, and let's try what happens. Let's see what happens. We have an index method, so we don't have to specify an action. We have an index action in the controller, so we don't have to specify an action, and it's okay. That's fantastic. Let's see where this file is saved. So remember, we saved it on the Dojo Course /textfile.txt, and this file is now somewhere in our storage. Our storage happens to be the media folder because that's the default simple way of storing files. So if you open the Orchard web project, here's our media folder. Inside the media folder we have, as mentioned earlier, subfolders corresponding to each of the tenants of Orchard, by default the default tenant, and we have a lot of stuff already here, but here's our Dojo Course folder, and here's our text file that contains our string. So that appears to be working well. Now let's do the opposite, and let's read back what was in the file. We won't need this, but for the record I will just comment it out. So let's read the file. The chain of commands will be pretty much the same here, very analogous. So we will again open a file, or we will again deal with iStorage files, file objects, but this time no open file. This is the day of fails today. Oh, get file. Okay, so it's not open file but get file, because we should get the file. So let's get the same file. I will copy paste the path as a professional, and this time we will need to open the file for reading. So again we will use a using block. Again we will deal with a stream, but this time we will open the file for reading. Well, before we use the stream writer to write to the stream, this time we will use a stream reader to read from the stream. So am I right? Yeah. So we need a stream reader. That should be a new stream reader, surprisingly, and let's give it our stream. The stream reader has, so the stream reader has some methods for reading the stream. Obviously, there's a read to end that returns a string, so we can just read the whole file at once. And let's return this so we can see the effect right away. And before that, you may wonder what to do not to fail with this call if the file was removed for some reason. Very good question, or very good observation. we commonly also check the existence of files. It's always a good practice, even if you are very sure that your file should be there. It may be not there for some exotic reason, so it's good practice to check for the files, for the existence of the file beforehand. And so I will wrap the whole thing into an if and use the file exists method on storage provider. It expects the same file path that I will again copy paste like a professional, and that's it. So if the file exists, we will get the content of the file. If it was removed, we will just get an OK, but the file was not there. So let's see what happens. We will get some magnificent surprises, I think, or not that. Yeah, hello file, so it works. Our file was read back to us. Let's go there into the media folder and let's remove the file. And what should happen is what actually happened. So our file existence check worked. There are a few other methods, but I don't think it's worth explaining all of them because it's quite simple. There is also rename file and rename folder. Yeah, by the way, there are corresponding methods for folders equally as there are for files. So there is also a folder exists method. There is also I don't think there's a get. Yeah, there's no get folder, but there is a delete folder method. Yeah, by the way, we haven't tried it, but of course there's also a delete file method that surprisingly removes the file. There's also a delete folder, and if you like to get all the files in a folder, you can use list files that accepts a path. That path should be a folder, and it will retrieve all the files inside that folder. And correspondingly, there is a list folders method that again accepts a path of a folder, and it will retrieve every folder inside that folder. So pretty simple stuff, but you need to know about it because it's hard to figure out yourself that there is something called an iStorage provider. And basically that was for today. I'm sorry we couldn't finish with the content querying stuff. We will check out what the issue was. It's not worth taking time on this here. So next time we will follow up with the last pieces of content querying, or rather with the last pieces of content manager usage. That will be content querying. But as a spoiler, you can try this at home because it's not dangerous. On Content Manager there is a query method, and what a surprise, this is the content querying API. Again, it's thoroughly documented in the training demo module, so if you can't wait, just check it out. And next time we'll follow up from here, or together with the last pieces of notable pieces of the Orchard API. So thank you for your attention, and see you next time.